So we're going to talk about some horse parts.
So we were talking today, and what a lot of people don't realize, so this might be review for a lot of you, but for some of you first-time horse owners or people that are wanting to get into the horse, we wanted to put up some parts of the horse. And then this is kind of an overview, and then what we want to do later on is get deep into stuff, because a lot of times people don't know what we're talking about when we say their pole or their stifle or their hock, and they don't know what part is. Like, a lot of people don't realize that the hock is equivalent to a human heel, not your knee. So a lot of people think the hock, which if you see on the picture, is in the back over there.
And actually the chestnut is an interesting one, because I've had a lot of newbies in the horse world say, something's on the horse, what do we do?
Yep. So the chestnut is the little piece in the front leg that's on the inside, and they say that it's like a little, like your fingernail growth kind of thing. It doesn't hurt if you peel it off and all that kind of stuff. So that's a chestnut.
Chestnut's on the back leg too.
And the back leg too, right below
the hock. Yeah, it's right on the inside. So if you see what looks like a funny kind of a hard growth, if you're a new horse owner, you're not thinking, oh my goodness, something's wrong. That's called a chestnut.
Yep. And then front legs. Okay, so let's start with the front legs. We'll go forearm, then you go down to your knee, and that's everybody goes, oh, okay, that makes sense, because that's where our knees would be if we had the front legs. And then the cannon bone, or the cannon, is between the knee and the pastern, which is, the pastern is the little joint below between the hoof and the fetlock, which is on the back foot where they have labeled it on this if you're watching. And then the heel of the hoof, which they didn't even label the hoof.
Well, it did in the back.
Okay, gotcha.
They got it in the back.
They got it in the back. So this is just a little easier way to break down everything. And like I said, this is just a lot of information at one time, but a lot of people don't understand the different things. When I went to college, I never was around horses, so I had to learn this and memorize all this. So
yeah, and actually when you go to pick up a front hoof and you begin to pick it, your hand is going to go obviously down the leg. We go down the leg before we pick up. We don't just grab the hoof. We run our hand down the leg, and when you do, you're going to get down kind of just above the pastern area, and you're going to feel this funny, like, knobbly little thing, and you're going to think, what's that? Well, that's an ergot.
An ergot.
They've got some very interesting names for these parts. So you're going to feel that kind of, it's in the hair. You know, if the hair is cut very short there, you're going to feel it more. But if you tend to have a horse with feathers, you're not going to feel, and I don't mean bird feathers, by the way. Let me just elaborate. I do actually mean feathers like horses like Gypsy Vanners that have a lot of hair, right? You're not necessarily going to feel it, but there is a kind of a knobbly little feeling there in the hair. And then we're working our way sort of up. So we go to the shoulder. So that's above the forearm, and the elbow, which is right above that. So that's a little bit of piece that's right by where it starts becoming the barrel. So then we go up to the crest, which is between the ears and the withers. So when you hear people say, oh, that horse had a very cresty neck, it doesn't mean cresty crusty. It means cresty. It's got a over-exaggerated arch to the neck.
Right. And then you go up to the pole, which is right behind the ears, top of the head.
The pole is a very kind of a prominent part of a horse in usage for a number of reasons. It's a very much more sensitive area that you don't want them, if they bang their head, to actually bang themselves on the pole. It is actually quite a sensitive area, but it's also a very important area in training and riding. So when you hear things about the pole, it's a very central high point on the horse. Yep. That is used in a variety of different ways in training.
And then if you go from the pole down behind the jaw, that's called the throat latch. So you'll hear a lot of people say something about the throat latch, cleaning it up, that kind of stuff. So that would be under your chin if it was a human.
Yes, and the part of the bridle that goes there is also called the throat latch.
There you go. And then you have the chin groove, which is right below the chin. Imagine that. And then you have the muzzle,
which is the soft part you kiss and cuddle.
Yeah. If you're Louisa, that's the first place you go.
It's all velvety and kissable.
And then, of course, the forehead, which that's self-explanatory, between the eyes. And then we start making our way back. The withers, that would be considered your shoulders, or where your shoulder blades were.
And the point of the withers is the point you measure a horse standing on a good flat, preferably concrete, probably surface, where you actually would measure a horse from the ground to the withers, so you know how many hands it is, 4 inches being 1 hand. No, so that's actually the point of measuring.
We're giving a lot of information out here today.
Yeah, so the withers is the how you know how tall a horse is.
Yep. So then you go to the back and then the loin. So the loin is about mid-back to almost the croup, which is the tall part of the hip. And then you have the flanks on both sides, which is like the side of your chest. So if you itched yourself right below your armpit, that would be considered your flank. And then point of hip, that's right where the side back towards the hip, but not close to the flank, so it's just off the flank. And then the dock is the top of the tail, and then the tail, of course, is the hairy part that hangs out behind their back end.
And the dock is within the hair of the tail.
Yeah.
So, if you feel the top of a horse's tail, it's going to feel a lot firmer than further down in the hair, because the dock is actually inside the upper part of the tail. Ends about, oh my goodness, probably a quarter of the way down most tails, I would say, on average.
And there'll be a test on this later. So
yes, test later.
No, we're just going over it as an overview. I'd like to do this where we do it again and we really concentrate on one part. And
yes.
So we get all those parts.